When our family had a chance to connect with a wealthy household, my sister Chloe didn't think twice before leaving us behind. She just left me and Nana to manage on our own. Chloe believed she was heading towards a life filled with luxury and happiness, but it turned out the rich family's son, Daniel, was deeply troubled and made her life a daily torment. His parents didn't seem to care, they only blamed her and sometimes even hit her. Eventually, Chloe couldn't take it anymore. She attacked the whole family and ended up getting arrested. During that time, I focused on my studies and became the youngest person accepted into the Farming Science Institute. I developed a special high-quality type of grain and was even nominated for a major award. My future looked very promising. But then Chloe escaped from jail. Full of rage and jealousy, she found me at my award ceremony and killed me. The next thing I knew, I opened my eyes and I was back in the past, right at the moment the rich family was choosing which child to adopt. This time, Chloe, with a hateful look in her eyes, hugged Nana tightly and said, "Sister, this time, it's your turn to go through hell." What she didn't understand was that no matter which path she took, if she didn't use her brain, she would only find trouble. My dream had always been straightforward. I wanted to improve farming methods and make a difference in the world. "Have you decided which one of you wants to come with us?" a well-dressed man and woman asked. They were standing in our small, worn-down house. The woman looked at us kindly, speaking softly. They were the Richards, a well-known family from Boston, and they were here to adopt one of us girls. Chloe froze for a second, a flash of happiness in her eyes. But then she quickly turned, hugged Nana tightly, and pouted, "I want to stay here with Nana." The woman's kind eyes turned to me, and she smiled gently. "So that means you will come with us, right?" Chloe quickly jumped in, Yeah, let my sister go home with you." Nana was rarely treated so sweetly by Chloe, and she looked a bit surprised. She awkwardly patted Chloe on the head. Normally, Chloe disliked Nana for being poor. She often ordered Nana around, called her mean names, and even made her run errands in the middle of rainstorms just because she craved something. Nana found Chloe's sudden change very strange. She knew Chloe loved money and always complained about being poor. So why, when a rich family offered a chance to leave, did Chloe suddenly refuse? Nana couldn't figure out why Chloe chose to stay in our simple home. But I knew exactly why. Both Chloe and I had been reborn. We had lived this life before. I knelt on the floor and bowed deeply to Nana 3 times. "Nana, thank you for taking care of me all these years. If I ever get the chance, I promise I will repay your kindness." After that, I stood up and walked calmly towards Mr. and Mrs. Richard. "I will go with you." In my previous life, my sister Chloe had eagerly rushed into the Richards' arms, determined to leave our poor life behind. She thought becoming part of the rich Richard family would be like stepping into a fairy tale, living happily ever after. She had no idea that the Richards had a hidden reason for adopting a daughter. They had a son named Daniel. He was handsome, but he was also completely unstable, suffering from severe mood swings, bipolar disorder. Chloe walked into the Richards' world expecting love and comfort. Instead, Daniel hated strangers and didn't hide it, slapping her across the face almost immediately. Mr. and Mrs. Richard were indifferent. They paid no attention to Chloe's swollen cheek and coldly told her that her only job was to look after her brother Daniel at school. At school, classmates looked down on Chloe because she was the adopted kid. The most popular boy, Mark, led the bullying, making her life miserable. At home, things weren't better. If Daniel acted out at school and got hurt, the Richards would whip Chloe with a cane and force her to kneel on the floor all night as punishment. Chloe's life was incredibly rough. In contrast, my life back then had been peaceful. After Chloe left, all of Nana's love and attention were focused on me. I studied hard in school, and after classes, I helped Nana sell baked yams on the street. Life was tough, but I was content. Later, a respected professor from the agricultural college visited our school and noticed my potential. I worked hard, didn't disappoint him, got into the agricultural college, and eventually worked with scientists to develop a high-quality type of wheat. I was even nominated as the youngest candidate for the country's top science award. My future was bright, and I felt like I was shining. Meanwhile, tormented constantly, Chloe eventually lost her mind. She hurt her adoptive family and ended up in jail. Unfortunately, I never made it to my award ceremony. That was the day Chloe broke out of jail. Her eyes were red with jealousy as she watched me in the spotlight. She came up to me and stabbed me to death. Having lived through that terrible experience once, Chloe didn't hesitate this time. She chose to stay with Nana, wanting me to fall into the nightmare of the Richard family instead. As I walked away with the Richards, I turned back and saw Nana crying. Chloe was clinging to her, but her eyes, full of spite, were fixed on me. She sneered, "Sister, this time it's you who's going to hell." She was so sure that joining the Richard family meant I would suffer just like she did. But after dying once, hadn't Chloe learned anything? No matter which path you choose, someone like her who never uses her brain only faces dead ends. Chloe wasn't wrong about the beginning, though. From my first day, I knew Daniel was completely unstable. His parents brought me home and introduced me to a boy with sharp facial features and deep, intense eyes. "Daniel, this is your new sister, Sarah," they said softly. "She'll take care of you at school." Mrs. Richard pushed me forward slightly as if presenting a new toy. "Your job is to make sure your brother doesn't get hurt. Got it?" I looked at the young man standing before me. "Got it." After Mr. and Mrs. Richard left the room, Daniel lazily walked up to me, looking down with a scornful glare. Yes, after a moment, he sneered, "Who do you think you are to be my sister?" Then suddenly, he reached out, grabbed my head, and slammed it down onto the table with a loud thud. His eyes were wild and full of contempt, like he was looking at an insignificant bug. "Idiot," he muttered. Just then, Mrs. Richard came back into the room because she had forgotten something. She saw me pinned by Daniel, his hand gripping my neck, but she didn't seem surprised at all. She just picked up her forgotten item, glanced at me with indifference as she walked past and said, "Sarah, watch him carefully. Don't let your brother get hurt." I could only move my eyes to look up at Daniel, and I quietly answered, "Got it. I'll take care of him." The way the Richard parents seemed to care about Daniel, yet were so cold and indifferent, made me feel sorry for him. It was truly pathetic. They soon left for their business trip. Once I was sure they were gone, I grabbed Daniel's hair and yanked it down hard. I calmly said, "Let go of me, you brainless lunatic." Daniel, surprised by my sudden action, let go and glared at me angrily. "How dare you insult me? I'll tell Mom and Dad and they'll kick you out." I stepped around him, smiling slightly. "Mom saw you choking me just now, and I didn't even resist. So, brother, how could I possibly insult you?" As I started walking upstairs, I warned him over my shoulder, "You better behave until they get back. Don't cause any trouble." With that, I ignored his shocked expression and left him standing there. Daniel spent some time outside my bedroom door, angrily banging on it, but I didn't care. Chloe wasn't content with just pushing me into this situation. She started a live stream online, putting on a vulnerable act with tears in her eyes. Holding up her phone, Chloe looked sweet and innocent with her dark hair down. She said tearfully, "My sister and I were raised by our grandmother, and I feel very close to her, choosing between a wealthy lifestyle and the family bonds we've always had." She paused, giving a bitter smile. "Even though our grandmother isn't well, I decided to stay by her side, hoping to spend more time with her." Chloe went on, "But my sister chose the wealthy family without looking back, not caring at all how our grandmother would live afterward. I really think she's cold and heartless." As more people watched the stream, listening to Chloe's words, many began to criticize me harshly. Fueled by the public reaction, Chloe quickly added, "I'm not saying my sister's choice was wrong. It's normal to choose wealth when you have the option. I understand her decision, of course." Chloe tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and softly said, "I will always be by my grandmother's side." She stared at her phone screen, showing a pure and innocent smile, like a single delicate flower. Clasping her hands together, she added, "I will stay with her and live happily." People online felt sorry for her innocent act. Her live stream was recorded and shared widely. Suddenly, everyone was praising her as an untainted flower, while I was seen as a greedy and ungrateful brat. Not surprisingly, almost everyone at school saw the video. Mark, the school's prince, who was raised in luxury, had never encountered a girl who would boldly choose family over wealth. Just like that, Chloe seemed not only strong but also harmless. I, on the other hand, was the greedy sister, appearing more devious and cunning in comparison. Mark despised people like me, so he blocked my way near the restroom. Wielding his influence, Mark smoked while squatting in front of me, looking down as he exhaled smoke in my face. "You're a dirty roach. What makes you think you deserve to study here?" Flicking the ash from his cigarette, he then pressed the burning tip into my arm. I was restrained by his friends and could only watch as it burned my skin, leaving a blister. The boys around laughed mockingly. Chloe was called over and witnessed the scene. Her eyes went wide and she put her hand over her mouth in shock. "How can you do this?" she gasped. Mark stood up nonchalantly and lightly teased Chloe. "Hey, little thing, I'm getting revenge for you. Don't you like it?" Chloe glanced at me, hiding her smugness, then stomped her foot and looked at Mark angrily. "I don't like this. It's too much." Mark chuckled, pulling Chloe close as they walked away. "Don't like it? Next time I'll find another way." Mary's sweet voice chimed in. "Mark, you shouldn't treat a classmate like that. It's not right." As they turned the corner, Chloe glanced back at me, her gaze full of contempt. She was pleased with herself. In our past life, Mark was the one who bullied her the most at school. Now, with her new identity, Mark liked her and was helping her bully me instead. But sister, I thought, living this life again, relying on men. Is that your only move? Initially, Daniel behaved quietly at school, but after we handed in some test papers, I returned to the classroom to find chaos. Daniel's desk was flipped over, and his books were thrown everywhere. Daniel himself was nowhere to be found. The classmates still had looks of shock on their faces. They said Daniel had been sitting there just fine, but then, out of nowhere, he just lost it and started trashing everything within reach. I found Daniel in an empty classroom nearby. The teachers were standing hesitantly at the door, but none of them dared to go in. He was sitting calmly on the only chair in the center of the room, but a violent edge lurked deep in his eyes. Chloe saw him, and a flash of resentment crossed her face. Memories of being bullied by Daniel's outbursts in her past life ran vividly through her mind. She screamed in fear, "Daniel's a lunatic. He's sick." Sarah's been taking care of him for so long. Doesn't she know that people who are manic depressive can't handle stress? I stepped up and slapped Chloe hard across the face, ordering her, "Shut up, don't say another word." She stumbled back against the wall. Chloe widened her eyes and was about to scream, but then she glanced quickly down the hallway and saw Mark and his crew coming. Her eyes shifted, and she started to cry softly. "Why are you bullying me?" Mark saw the scene and came rushing over, his jaw clenched in anger. "Hey, Sarah, are you crazy?" I didn't pay any attention to Mark at all. Instead, I turned and stepped into the classroom that no one dared to enter, slamming the door shut behind me. Facing Daniel's sudden, terrifying glare, I stayed calm and held out the pill bottle. "Take your meds," I said in a cold tone. Daniel snapped, "Get out." Seeing me walk closer, Daniel's fingers curled slightly. The next moment, he stood up, grabbed me by the neck, and slammed me to the ground. His eyes were red, and he growled low in his throat. I said, "Get out." Honestly, I wasn't surprised. But we were at school, not at the Richard estate, a place where Daniel could just run wild. After all those years of working on the farm with Nana, if anything, I've got some serious strength. I pried Daniel's hands off me without saying a word, grabbed him by the collar, and flipped him over, pinning him to the ground. Holding him down firmly, I said clearly, "Take your meds." Daniel was in the middle of a manic episode and wasn't listening at all. He was struggling, trying to get back up. "You dare treat me like this? I'm going to make my parents kick you out." My voice was icy. "Go ahead. If it weren't for Nana owing a debt to the Richard family and wanting to repay it, I wouldn't have followed them obediently at all." Daniel couldn't get out of my grip. His gaze turned fierce and he bit down hard on my arm. He didn't hold back, and in a flash, my blood was pouring out, but I wasn't having it. I punched him in the face, bloodied and all, ready to wrestle with him. Daniel had burned through most of his energy earlier and was too tired to fight back for long. When it came to an end, I had his arms pinned behind his back, forcing him to swallow the medication. Daniel shot me a vengeful look. "Sarah, you're insane!" I slapped him mercilessly. "You're the one who's nuts, idiot." Because Daniel's meltdown happened at school, pretty much everyone found out he had manic depression. Chloe spread it further, telling everyone Daniel was a madman, violent and brutal, urging them to stay away from him. When Mark asked, Mary immediately teared up. Daniel's really scary. I've seen him bully people before. I just wanted my classmates to stay away for their safety. Hearing this, any weird suspicions Mark had quickly disappeared, and Chloe seemed more kind and innocent to him than ever. He pulled her close with a wave of his hand. Don't worry, stick with me. I won't let anyone bully you. Hearing that, Chloe blushed lightly and playfully tapped Mark's arm. What are you talking about? Thanks to Chloe's stories, Daniel, who was already not fitting in, now had even fewer people willing to be near him. It was just me keeping an eye on him at school, making sure he took his meds on time. Daniel grew fed up with me, repeatedly telling me to get lost. Once I saw him swallow those pills, I'd just pack up my things and leave. I wasn't planning on sticking around him unnecessarily, and because the last time Daniel flipped out, I had impatiently slapped Chloe, and Mark had seen it. He saw it as bullying and grew to dislike me even more. At school, I'd often find nasty words like witch or slut written all over my desk with a marker. In the cafeteria, people deliberately bumped into me, making my food spill all over the floor. Sometimes, after going out and coming back, I'd reach into my backpack only to find snakes, mice, or cockroaches, dead or alive, stuffed inside. Seeing me stop in my tracks, Mark would be at the window ledge with his crew, laughing hysterically. But I kept a calm face. I'd walk over and stuff the creatures right back down Mark's collar, exactly as they were. He would freak out, jumping around to shake out the mouse, yelling, "Are you crazy?" I wouldn't say anything, just head back to my seat. Mark's look would turn dark. He'd glare and mutter, "I'll kill you." There were more of them than me, so I always tried to avoid crossing paths with Mark and his gang. If I managed to avoid them, I'd get a day of peace. If not, once they caught me, things could get ugly. But I never begged Mark for mercy, even when he was crushing my hand, looking down on me. "Tisk, Sarah," he'd sneer. "You seem pretty tough." I would be in so much pain, breaking into a cold sweat, but I kept silent. Finally, finding no more interest in tormenting me, Mark would turn away, leaving with his gang. I'd slowly get up from the ground, leaning against the wall, staring at Mark's retreating back. With a hoarse voice, I'd call out, "Mark, you better kill me if you get the chance. Otherwise, I'll drag you to hell with me." Mark would turn back with a sneer. "Dumbass, do you think you're tough talking like that?" And with that, his bunch of guys would burst into laughter. Daniel often witnessed Mark bullying me, but he'd just glance at me indifferently and walk away without a care. Mary saw this and would laugh, patting my face mockingly. "Sarah, you're chasing after Daniel like a dog, but he never gave a damn about you." I didn't have the energy to hit Chloe at that moment. I just leaned against the wall to catch my breath. Once I did, I kicked out at Chloe hard. She screamed and backed off a few steps, glaring at me furiously. "Bitch, why aren't you dead yet?" Then she suddenly laughed, looking so pleased with herself. "It's not time yet, dear sister. Get ready for a long nightmare." Daniel and Mark started fighting. By the time I got there, they were already wrestling in the classroom, looking pretty roughed up. One was from the wealthy Richard family of Boston, the other from the prominent Miller family. Nobody dared to break them up, worried about getting caught in the middle. The homeroom teacher was outside, pacing anxiously. I noticed Chloe at the door, covering her mouth, excitedly watching the chaos. From the looks of it, she definitely played a part in getting these two, who usually never interacted, to fight. When Chloe saw me, she grinned smugly, showing off her teeth. The Richard family parents are back from their trip, and they found out about Daniel fighting. Guess what they'll do? She continued, "Sister, you're done for." I was annoyed just seeing her and slapped her hard. "Done, done, done. Without Mark here to protect you, don't you know you're going to get hit?" After that, I ignored Chloe's screams behind me and walked into the classroom. Daniel was in a manic state, his eyes bloodshot as he choked Mark. But Mark wasn't backing down either and was punching Daniel in the face repeatedly. I picked up a long stick that was lying nearby and without hesitation, swung it hard at Mark's head. With a thud, Mark rolled his eyes and lost consciousness. Dropping the stick, I felt immensely satisfied. The teacher outside screamed in shock. "Sarah's got some guts. Quick, take Mark to the nurse." Seeing Mark pass out but with Daniel still choking him, I was afraid Daniel might actually kill him. I had to pry Daniel's fingers off Mark, calming him down. "Cool it, Daniel." Daniel glared at me with bloodshot eyes, looking like he might punch me too. But I was quicker, pinning his arms behind his back, restraining him. "Chill." Daniel struggled, then bit down hard on my arm again. Damn it! Why was he always biting like a mad dog? I spoke quickly. "I'm the only one you know at school. I have your meds. I can take care of you. So please calm down, all right? I won't let anyone bully you." As he listened, maybe it was the taste of blood in his mouth. Daniel's red eyes locked onto mine, and slowly he let go. This whole thing blew up. The teacher called both families to the school. Mark's parents, the Millers, looked at Mark's injuries and then at the Richard family parents with a fake smile. "Your adopted daughter has quite the heavy hand," Mrs. Miller remarked. Hearing this, Mr. Richard glanced at me before raising his hand and smacking me hard across the face. My cheeks swelled immediately, and I could taste the faint metallic tang of blood. Mr. Richard then smiled at the Millers. "Yes, this one's hard to tame, sorry." In front of the Miller family, Mr. Richard harshly scolded me before telling me to get out so he could talk to them privately. As I left the office, Mr. Richard lightly patted my shoulder, speaking softly, "Well done." Seeing me leave with a swollen face, Chloe laughed triumphantly, covering her lips. "Sister, you're finished. No avoiding the whip and kneeling now. Plus, with that madman acting up, he might just make you suffer horribly too." I was already fed up with her. Grabbing her neck, I slammed her against the wall, glaring coldly. "Watch your mouth. He's sick, not crazy." Chloe gasped for air, her eyes tearing up as her face turned red, slapping at my hand desperately. "Good dog for Daniel, huh? Protecting him like that." That's when Mark came out of the office, looking grim. Seeing me choking Chloe, he stepped forward and pulled us apart, looking annoyed. "You're bullying your sister again? You're truly vicious." Remembering the hit I'd given him, Mark's eyes were cold as he glared at me with hatred. "You really pissed me off this time, Sarah." I smiled, looking at these two. "Want to kill me? What a shame, you're too late." Just then, Daniel walked out the door calmly. With a flick of his eyes, he grabbed me by the collar and started walking. "Sarah, let's go." Chloe watched, eyes wide with shock, almost in disbelief. "No way! Since when did you get so close with him?" I ignored her and shook off Daniel's hand, frowning at him. "Are you nuts?" Daniel paused, looking awkward. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He just lifted his leg and walked straight ahead. I watched Daniel carefully, feeling something was off. When something doesn't add up, there's usually a catch. After thinking for a bit, Daniel took a deep breath. "I heard it," he said quietly. "When that person called me crazy, you stood up to her. Why'd you help me?" Daniel seemed genuinely puzzled. "I've never been good to you." I just sort of shrugged. I just didn't like her, and needed a reason to teach her a lesson. "Besides," I frowned, staring at Daniel equally confused, "I've always called you crazy." After that, Daniel seemed to have started a one-sided Cold War with me. That's my guess, anyway. Because when I used to supervise Daniel taking his meds, he'd sarcastically call me a dummy, or sometimes he'd mess with me on purpose, spilling his meds. But now, Daniel wouldn't even glance at me. He'd take his meds coldly and swallow them straight down without a word. I had no idea what kind of mood he was in, but honestly, this version of Daniel was easier to deal with. Once he finished his meds, I just went back to my spot to study. Thanks to the choices Chloe made in this life, even though Daniel was a bit of a loon, the Richard family never held back on the money. In my last life, I went to school during the day and helped my Nana sell roasted yams at night. I had no money and couldn't afford extra study materials. I bought old workbooks at a discount from older students, working through them over and over until they were worn out. Now, there was a nanny at home, a driver to take me to and from school. Every month, Mrs. Richard would deposit a large sum of money into my bank account. I never had to worry about money. On the other hand, Chloe's life was much more strained. Nana was getting old, braving the harsh cold weather to sell sweet potatoes, earning barely enough to survive. She relied on government welfare checks to get by each month. But Chloe was used to a comfortable life before, so going back to a meager existence was tough for her. Plus, her grades weren't great, leaving her future uncertain. Now, it was only Mark's affection that gave her a sliver of hope for the future. When Chloe came home occasionally, she'd angrily scold Nana. "Why can't you come up with any money, old hag? Go out and earn some." I worried about Nana's health with her advancing age, so I saved up my allowance and gave it to Nana whenever Chloe wasn't around. I told her, "Buy whatever you need, Nana, but don't let Chloe boss you around. Please take care of yourself." Nana held my hand, looking at me with those cloudy eyes, feeling guilty. "Sarah, it's Grandma's fault. I can't work anymore, and I had to send you away. Sarah, don't let anyone push you around out there." I felt my eyes sting. Gripping Nana's hand back, I forced a smile. "Nana, I'm doing really well. Mom and Dad treat me great, and so does my brother. I won't be bullied, I promise." Nana finally seemed relieved, gently patting my hand. That's good, that's good." When I was leaving, she insisted on giving me a bag of sweet potatoes. "I grew these myself. They're healthy. Take them home to your mom and dad." I couldn't say no, so I took them. "Okay, Nana, I'll drop by again next time. Take care." Nana stood at the door, waving as I went, smiling cheerfully. "Nana will be waiting." Back at the Richard house, I saw Daniel on the couch, flipping restlessly through a book. When he saw me come in, he sounded a bit annoyed. "Where did you go? Why didn't you wait for me after school?" When he noticed the muddy plastic bag I brought in, he looked even more disgusted. "What's that? Looks filthy." I couldn't be bothered to respond to Daniel. I went into the kitchen and started washing the sweet potatoes. Daniel followed me, arms crossed, standing there arrogantly. "Why'd you buy that stuff?" "I went to see Nana," I replied. "She grew these." Daniel had heard about my background story before and just snorted. When I started cooking the sweet potatoes, he begrudgingly spoke up. "Hey, Sarah, can I try some too?" I didn't add any seasoning, just boiled them simply. Daniel wrinkled his nose, picking at the soft skin with a fork before taking a tentative bite. "It's okay," he admitted. "Your Nana grew them well." Seeing Daniel act so awkwardly for once, he didn't seem quite so annoying. When I was heading upstairs, I patted his head lightly like you might do to a dog. "Finish your food. Don't waste it." Daniel's eyes widened and he took a sharp breath. "Sarah, how dare you!" Since that last parent-teacher meeting, Mark had stayed somewhat out of trouble at school. But every time I passed him, his eyes were cold and I knew he was definitely plotting something. Likewise, Chloe had quieted down, but she still looked at me with the same venom. Why wasn't I in trouble? Why hadn't I been hit or punished? How did I manage it? She seemed to wonder. I just smiled back at her. "You want to know?" I asked her one day, grabbing her by the neck and bending my head to whisper in her ear on the stairs. "Then get on your knees and beg, sis." It was simple, really. You just had to understand what each person needed. The Richard parents were so busy with work. They needed someone reliable to watch over their troubled son and provide stability. Daniel had been neglected since he was a kid. All he really wanted was someone to be there, to care. I just wanted to get through my school life peacefully. If you think it through, find a balance between these different needs and put in some effort, then problems usually sort themselves out. Unfortunately, in her past life, Chloe was way too selfish. She was always looking out only for herself and never willing to back down or compromise. That's the main difference between us. Chloe's body shook with anger as she glared at me intensely. After a moment, she took a deep breath to suppress her rage and sneered, "Just you wait, Sarah. Without Nana helping you connect, do you really think Professor Evans would choose you as her student in this life? Dream on. I'm going to live a much better life than you in this lifetime." After Christmas, the weather suddenly turned cold. It rarely snowed in Boston, but now it did. Since that last harsh encounter, Chloe had been trying extra hard to win over Mark. After all, getting Mark's favor and becoming the fiancé of the heir to the wealthy Miller family was quite glamorous, something she wouldn't have even dared to dream of in her past life. As the new year approached, the school was decorated with festive lanterns everywhere, looking bright and new. I knew these efforts were mainly to welcome the keynote speech by Professor Evans, an esteemed academician from the agricultural school. Meanwhile, I led a routine life, going between school and home. Occasionally, when I knew Chloe wasn't home, I visited Nana. This kind of life was peaceful, and I liked it. Ever since the time Daniel hadn't waited for me after school, he had started keeping a closer eye on me. Whenever I visited Nana, this young master would wait in the car, lowering himself to accompany me. He claimed it was because he was worried I might cause trouble. Me? Who would be the one causing trouble, really? Sometimes when Daniel got impatient waiting, he'd come inside Nana's small apartment looking grumpy. Seeing someone like Daniel, clearly from wealth, in this cramped urban place was indeed a bit odd. Nana would get nervous, wiping her hands, unsure how to entertain him. Daniel would pick a small stool, carefully clean it off, and sit down without getting angry, holding a paper cup delicately with his fingers. He'd sarcastically comment, "If I sit here any longer, my rheumatism might flare up." I'd glare at Daniel. "Young master, sit if you want, or get lost." Daniel would glare back but wouldn't budge, as if glued to the stool. He didn't move until I finished helping Nana with her chores. Looking at Daniel kindly, Nana would chuckle, "Charlie, come by with Sarah again next time." Daniel would cough dryly, reluctantly smiling at Nana. "See you next time, Nana." One day, as we stepped out of Nana's building, we ran into someone unexpected. Mark stood gloomily at the entrance to the alley, followed by his crew holding sticks. Mark gave us a sinister smile. "Finally caught you," he said, walking over slowly. "You picked a great spot. No cameras, nobody around." Tapping the stick in his hand, he added, "Even if I knock you both out today, no one would know." It turned out Mark had been trailing us. I quickly scanned our surroundings, assessing the situation. Daniel wasn't afraid of anything. He glanced at Mark and coldly spat, "Idiot." Mark laughed furiously. "We'll see today who's the real idiot." I took a step back and nudged Daniel with my elbow, whispering, "Follow my lead." Daniel raised an eyebrow, surprised. "You can fight?" Watching Mark get closer, I started a soft countdown. 3, 2, 1. Daniel calmly asked, "Who do you want me to hit?" At the last moment, I grabbed Daniel's hand, shouted, "Run!" and we took off down the alley. Shocked, Daniel yelled, "Weren't we going to fight back?" I was familiar with running through these narrow alleys from my past life with Nana. Pulling Daniel along swiftly while panting, I managed to scold him. "Are you crazy? They have 18 people and we're just 2. How could we possibly fight? Having guts is good, but not knowing when to back down makes you a fool. My brain and my hands are crucial for my dream of cultivating high-end wheat. I can't risk getting hurt." Daniel snorted dismissively. "Coward." But he wasn't stupid enough to go back and fight Mark alone. After that, Daniel kept quiet. Thankfully, I used to live around here a long time ago, so I knew the layout well. I led us through a series of twists and turns to a dead end, quickly climbed over a wall, and pulled Daniel up too. Once we were hidden on the other side, I listened carefully for the sound of Mark's crew moving away. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Turning to Daniel, I saw him staring at me, dumbfounded. I frowned. "What are you looking at?" After hesitating a moment, he muttered, "That wall climb? That was pretty cool." Chloe stirred up trouble again. One night, she unexpectedly showed up at the Richard family's place, crying her eyes out with a camera secretly recording in her hand. She tearfully knocked on our door. "Sister, Nana's sick. You should go see her." Behind the scenes where the camera couldn't reach her face, Chloe's eyes flashed with malice. Her voice was weak but insistent. "Come with me. Go see Grandma." Chloe had moved out of Nana's place a long time ago because she hated the shabby home. She was comfortably settled into the apartment Mark had rented for her and rarely visited Nana. If Nana were truly sick, how would Chloe know before me? I had just seen Nana not too long ago, and she was healthy and looking good. Chloe's act was nothing but like a fox pretending to care for a hen. She was clearly up to no good. I quickly checked the surveillance camera feed I'd installed at Nana's place on my phone. After making sure Nana was perfectly fine, I was about to close the door in Chloe's face. "Come on, sis," Chloe interrupted, acting all desperate. "I'm serious. Sis, Nana's really sick and she wants to see you." I chuckled darkly. "Chloe, sis, work on your acting skills. Next time, make it more believable and maybe I'll consider playing along." Just then, Daniel came out from behind me, looking down at Chloe like she was something insignificant he'd stepped on. He frowned in disgust. Does every Tom, Dick, and Jane think they can just knock on our door? What's the security even for? Daniel hit the intercom button, his voice cold. "Security! Get her out of here!" Chloe was escorted away by security guards, tears still in her eyes as she left. She made sure to hold her phone camera pointed at us, her eyes full of resentment. She mouthed silently, "You're done for?" Yeah, right. Like I didn't see her with her phone out recording everything. I was just letting this storm build. The higher you let someone climb with their lies, the harder they fall, right? On the scheduled day, Dr. Evans, the well-known scholar from the Agricultural Institute, arrived at the school. Many reporters came to interview her. As the principal was respectfully inviting Dr. Evans to tour the school, Chloe burst in, crying dramatically and holding her phone up. She knelt on the floor, grabbing onto Dr. Evans' skirt, tears streaming down her face. "Please help me, teacher. Ever since my sister got adopted by the rich Richards, she hasn't cared about me or our grandma. And she's been bullying me constantly at school. I can't take it anymore." Dr. Evans, being a kind mentor figure, helped Chloe up, looking concerned. "Child, what happened exactly? Who is your sister?" Chloe, sobbing, wiped her eyes. "My sister is Sarah." Hearing that name, Dr. Evans paused, a keen look in her eyes. Softly, she asked, "Can you tell me what happened in detail?" Reporters, seeing the drama unfold, instinctively pointed their cameras and microphones at Chloe. When she mentioned bullying, their eyes lit up, eager for a juicy story. "Don't worry, kid," one assured her. "We're reporters. We'll help you get justice." Chloe slowly raised her tear-stained face, showing the video on her phone. The video was from the other night when she tearfully knocked on the Richard family's door and I refused to go with her. As the video ended, the reporters were outraged. "This is outrageous! How could she be so ungrateful and bullying? What's going on here? Student welfare is crucial. We can't tolerate campus bullying." Dr. Evans exhaled softly, turning to the principal. "Please bring the other child, Sarah, here. I'd like to hear her side of the story." The sudden commotion had the principal sweating bullets. He quickly called me to his office. As soon as I walked in, he sternly reprimanded me. "Sarah, even if you were adopted by the Richards, Chloe is still your family. How can you bully your sister just because you're from a wealthy family now?" I faced the principal, calm and confident. "Principal, are you saying that bullying is unacceptable regardless of who it is?" "Of course," he sputtered. "Oh, this is a school. Students are students, no matter what their family background is. We cannot tolerate bullying." Hearing this, I smiled faintly. "Principal, in that case, I'm reporting Mark Miller for bullying me." The room fell silent. Mark Miller, the spoiled heir of Boston's prominent Miller family, was not someone to cross lightly. Cameras pivoted back to me faster than blinking. The principal, sweating even more now, slammed his hand on the desk. "That's ridiculous! Explain your own bullying incident before falsely accusing Mark." I slowly looked away, sighing dramatically. "First, Chloe accusing me of bullying is a complete fabrication. It's unfounded." Mary looked visibly flustered. "You're lying," she insisted, asking the principal to check the hallway cameras for the footage of me allegedly slapping her. The footage was pulled up, and it clearly showed that I did slap Chloe. The principal slammed the desk again. "Sarah, care to explain this?" I shifted my gaze, shaking my head slightly. "I admit I slapped Chloe. It was a momentary act of anger, and I'm willing to be punished for it." Chloe showed a smug expression, thinking she had won. However, I continued smoothly, every time I have hit Chloe, it has been provoked. My brother Daniel suffers from bipolar disorder, which makes him emotionally unstable. Yet Chloe repeatedly spread rumors at school, calling him a lunatic and aggravating his condition. Moreover, she made these insulting comments right to my face. I looked around at everyone in the room. Daniel is a good brother, and I cannot tolerate Chloe insulting him like that. Everyone in the room knew about Daniel's condition. The principal seemed thoughtful. A reporter spoke up. Verbal conflicts leading to physical reactions. That's understandable, perhaps, but it's not direct evidence of bullying, is it? Dr. Evans, after hearing everything, tapped the table and glanced at me. So, your sister says you ignored your elderly grandmother. What's that about? I nodded, looking straight at Professor Evans. I quietly said, maybe if my grandma comes in and explains things herself, it'll be more convincing. Just then, Daniel led Nana into the office. On the way, Nana had already heard the whole story. She looked at Chloe with a deeply disappointed expression, as if she couldn't understand why a child she raised would behave that way. Nana, choking back tears, spoke softly but clearly. Sarah is a good kid. She's been working hard with me out in the field since she was just a little girl, and she never once complained. With her shriveled, aged hands, she fumbled in her pockets and pulled out a tightly wrapped cloth pouch. She carefully unwrapped it, revealing a bank card. Nana gently stroked the card, tears streaming down her face. After Sarah was adopted by the Richard family, she came to see me every single month. She saved up all her pocket money and gave it to me. Even though she was busy with her studies, she still worried about my health and came back often to help me with the chores around the house. Nana then looked at Chloe, her eyes clouded with tears, and spoke with guilt in her voice. Chloe, is it because I didn't have enough education that I didn't raise you well? How could you lie and slander Sarah like that? Hearing Nana's words, Chloe's face turned deathly pale. She kept shaking her head, stammering. What are you talking about, Nana? I never knew Sarah visited you. She forced an awkward smile. Don't lie for her, Nana. Nana shakily took a couple of steps forward, trying to kneel down in front of everyone. I swear to you all, Sarah is truly a good child. She's never done anything cruel or heartless. Please don't be hard on her. Seeing Nana's actions, I immediately rushed forward and supported her arm. Nana shook my hand off and knelt completely, bowing her head low. It's my fault. I didn't teach Sarah well. Please don't blame her. The reporters, sharp-eyed from covering many such dramatic scenes, could instantly tell who was telling the truth and who wasn't. I helped Nana up and looked at Chloe with a cold smile. Of course you don't know I visited Nana because you were ashamed of our poor environment. You moved out early. Ask yourself, Chloe, how many times did you visit Nana in the 6 months after you moved out? Worried that Nana might fall sick with no one there to care for her, I had installed small security cameras in her home. Watching Chloe's face turn paler inch by inch, I added calmly, if you actually lived there, you would know about the cameras. But do you know? I pulled up footage from the cameras saved on my phone. The video clearly showed Chloe rarely going home. When she did visit, she was shown rifling through Nana's few belongings, clearly looking for her savings and demanding money. Sensing this might happen, I had already warned Nana to hide the bank card I gave her, so Chloe never found it. The most damning part of the video showed Chloe impatiently shoving Nana when she couldn't produce any money, cursing, "You worthless old woman, you're just a waste alive. With no money, what's the point of me even staying with you?" Nana, pushed over, stumbled, and could only apologize meekly. I'm sorry, I'm useless. I can't earn money. After viewing these videos myself earlier, I had been furious, rushing to Nana's house overnight and taking her to get checked by a doctor. Luckily, nothing serious had happened physically. The evidence now became a powerful weapon against Chloe. From the very start, Chloe had placed her phone secretly on the bookshelf, live streaming everything with the clear intention of turning public opinion against me. But things had turned around spectacularly. I quickly blocked her from stopping the live stream, and the viewers online went from sympathizing with Chloe to realizing the shocking truth. They started angrily denouncing her in the chat. Wow, she's disgusting. Such a fake, innocent act. I can't believe I thought she stayed with her grandma out of love. She was just using her poor grandmother. So shameful. I regret ever defending her. Professor Evans helped Nana sit down and softly said, Mrs. Sarah, please take a break and have some water. Nana had actually worked in Professor Evans' research lab doing manual labor many years ago during my past life. After remembering the kind old lady, Professor Evans had visited her after giving a lecture and discovered my natural knack for agriculture back then. Thanks to that connection, I had gotten into a good agricultural college and eventually became her student. In this life, Chloe had tried her best to keep me from meeting Professor Evans and continuing my chosen career path. But I had planned ahead and already sent my research papers directly to Professor Evans's email address. After reading my research, Professor Evans was very impressed and had already planned to meet me personally on the day of her lecture. So, when Chloe barged in crying, Professor Evans decided to get all the facts straight before making any judgments, and things turned out just as she had suspected. Looking at me again, Professor Evans smiled warmly. Sarah, you are indeed a good child. I knew you were. Then she firmly addressed the principal. Now that the misunderstanding about Sarah is cleared up, it's time to address Mark Miller's bullying incidents. Seeing this unfold, the principal's forehead glistened with even more sweat as he wiped it repeatedly. I chuckled softly. Of course, let's check the surveillance footage before jumping to any conclusions. Mentioning the surveillance footage almost made Chloe lose her balance, but I calmly pulled up the recordings showing the scene where Mark and his crew cornered and bullied me in full detail, including the cigarette burn. Unlike Chloe, I wouldn't be stupid enough to act so blatantly and make a big fuss without proof. I knew how to bide my time and pick my moment. When I strike, it's like a lethal falcon swooping down. Today, I was solving all of it. Mark bullied me, that was an undeniable fact. Today, with Professor Evans present, several top reporters from the Boston newspaper were gathered. For them, a story of high society bullying involving the heir of the Miller family was like catching the whiff of blood in the water. There was no way they'd let it go without tearing off a piece of flesh. No one, not even Mark, the prestigious Miller family prince, could protect himself now. Things went exactly as I expected. With clear video evidence, the fact was undeniable. Reporters blew up the story about Mark bullying his classmate overnight. The Miller family's company stock price tanked, and even Mark stayed away from school for a few days. Afraid of Mark's potentially crazy retaliation, I was extra cautious for a while, sticking strictly to my school routine and not lingering outside unnecessarily. Inevitably, though, I ran into Mark. He looked terrible with dark circles under his eyes. He stopped me. Sarah, can we talk? I glanced around quickly to make sure we were surrounded by other students, then warily replied, I have nothing to discuss with you. Mark ignored me, lighting a cigarette. He exhaled slowly and asked, The alley where I cornered you, is that where your grandma lives? I frowned, unsure of his point. Defensively, I replied, Don't try to bother my grandma. I've already moved her somewhere safe where you can't find her. Mark chuckled humorlessly, tossed the cigarette onto the ground, and stamped it out. I'm not planning revenge, he said quietly. After a pause, he added, It's amazing how I never realized Chloe never actually cared for her grandma, despite everything she said. Mark closed his eyes in frustration. This is my karma. I hated you before, thinking you were greedy and heartless, just like my own dad, who's responsible for my mom's death. It turns out I was the fool all along, played like a puppet while thinking I was the moral one. Mark grimaced and, with an awkward motion, apologized. I'm sorry, Sarah. I stepped back calmly. Don't be pathetic. If apologies actually worked, why would we need the police? With that, I turned and walked away. Mark stood behind me quietly, watching me leave. You can think of me as pathetic, he muttered under his breath. Rumors started spreading soon after that Jake had dumped Chloe. Then, More gossip circulated that Chloe was pregnant. She apparently caused a huge scene at the Miller family house, demanding that Mark take responsibility. But it wasn't Mark who dealt with her, it was his father. Already in a foul mood due to the company's stock losses, Mr. Miller couldn't stand seeing Chloe, the girl who had caused his son's public fiasco. Though he smiled politely, his words were cold as ice. "And how do you know the baby is my son's? A woman like you," he glanced her over dismissively, "can probably get a bunch of guys interested with just a gesture. Why do you think you're worth something special?" Dismissing her entirely, Mr. Miller ordered his staff, "Take her away, have the baby, gone, and send her wherever someone like her belongs." Forced into an abortion, Chloe lost weight rapidly, her cheeks becoming sunken. Nana heard about it somehow and was heartbroken, blaming herself for not raising Chloe well. But I knew it was entirely Chloe's own downfall, a consequence of her choices. To spare Nana further sadness, I agreed to visit Chloe in the hospital once. Chloe lay there in the hospital bed with vacant eyes, whispering repeatedly, "Why? Why is my fate the same, even after living again? Why can't I ever compete with you?" Watching her from a distance, I remained expressionless. "Your biggest mistake, Chloe, is pinning all your hope on other people. In your past life, you tried to rely on the Richard family to become some kind of high society lady, but they had their own plans for you. You couldn't accept it, fighting against them constantly without considering Daniel's fragile condition, creating a vicious cycle that only made Daniel dislike you more. This life, you tried to rely on Mark's affection to become a wealthy wife, but the person Mark liked was a fake version of you, an act you put on. You can't fake it forever. You could have chosen a different path, one better suited for you." I paused, then delivered the final blow. "The biggest difference between us, sister, is that I rely only on myself." Chloe was stunned, her face pale as she shook her head frantically, insisting, "I'm not like you, not like you." She screamed hysterically until the nurses asked me to leave. Later, I heard that Chloe, after recovering physically, started indulging heavily in the nightlife scene. With her looks, she definitely attracted a lot of wealthy men. But those men were only toying with her. Once they got bored, they quickly discarded her. None of them ever wanted to marry her. They sneered behind her back. "She's just a tramp who's been with too many guys. If it weren't for her pretty face, I wouldn't even consider spending time with her." In a matter of months, Mary had several more forced abortions. The last time she encountered Mark was at a bar. Seeing Mark surrounded by people laughing and talking, Chloe, with tears streaming down her eyes, apparently grabbed a knife from the bar and walked toward him. She stabbed Mark multiple times before being subdued. Mark was rushed to the emergency room, his condition unknown. Chloe was arrested on the spot and jailed for assault. I saw this news flash across my screen as a web notification while I was checking my final exam scores online. After the college entrance exams, Daniel had actually done quite well, scoring 531, enough to get into a good college in Boston. I had scored 739, topping the city's science stream. My choice was clear, the same agricultural college Professor Evans had attended. My responsibility to look after Daniel, the reason I came to the Richards in the first place, was effectively done. I decided it was time to say goodbye to the Richard family. I went to them and handed over a bank card. "This is the prize money from my high school competitions and some patents I registered," I explained. "I also saved all the allowance money you gave me over the years." I told them I had originally been adopted by the Richards to repay them for helping my Nana financially back then. Now it was time for me to leave and follow my own path. Hearing this, Daniel clenched his fists, looking incredulous. "You're leaving?" he asked, his voice tight. I smiled, trying to comfort him gently. "Daniel, no one stays with you forever. You have to learn to part ways eventually." Daniel's condition had improved a lot over the past few years. His bipolar episodes were rare now. Besides, I softened my voice slightly. I have my own dreams to chase. My dream was always to cultivate high-end wheat, a variety that could make our country self-sufficient in luxury crops, reducing reliance on expensive imports. I wanted local people to choose domestic produce first so farmers like my Nana could earn a decent income for their hard work. I dreamed that the crops Nana grew with so much effort wouldn't have to be sold for dirt cheap prices anymore. In my past life, I had successfully developed that dream wheat variety. Now it was all just a vision again. Currently, our country lacked premium agricultural products that could compete in the global market. Despite being an agricultural powerhouse, it was ironically the world's largest food importer. That, combined with the fact that most of the country's terrain, except for large flat areas like the Northeast Plain, couldn't fully utilize mechanized farming methods, presented a huge challenge. But I believed that with my past experience, I could cultivate the ideal wheat variety sooner this time, and even improve it further to better suit the country's diverse needs. However, I didn't expect that on the very first day of college, Daniel would show up right in front of me with his luggage, standing there lazily. I was a bit taken aback. "What are you doing here?" He casually threw an arm over my shoulder and smirked. "Your brother can't just let you wander alone out here in the big world. I decided to go to a school right next door to yours, to watch over you." He nudged me to help him with his registration paperwork. "There are way too many people here, and I get headaches in crowds." While my hands were full with his papers, he slipped a bank card into my bag, grinning. "The Richards are loaded, Sarah. We can easily afford to support a kid like you. Why be so dramatic about paying us back? Having a genius sister is a big deal. The whole family can't wait to spoil you rotten. Why try to live like a monk?" Daniel ruffled my hair playfully. "And don't worry, I've already arranged for Nana to be taken care of properly. She'll be perfectly fine. You're the genius here. You focus on using your amazing brains to change the world. Anything else? Your brother's got it covered." "What are you possibly afraid of?" he reassured me. "Once a brother, always a brother. I'll have your back for life." By the age of 25, under Professor Evans's expert guidance, our research team successfully cultivated the high-end wheat variety I had dreamed of. It was high in yield, had a great taste, and was surprisingly easy to grow in various conditions. In just a few short years, our country's wheat was being sold globally. The high patent fees collected from the seeds and the profits from exporting the grain boosted the nation's agriculture significantly. Farming finally became a profitable venture, attracting more young people back to the field. At the age of 29, during the prestigious National Science and Technology Award ceremony, our team was nominated for our significant contributions to agriculture through our wheat research. Nana sat proudly in the audience, wiping tears from her eyes. She clapped excitedly and whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "Sarah, I'm so proud of you." Daniel, standing beside her, smiled warmly at me. Congratulations, sister," he said sincerely. "You made your dream come true." I walked towards them, towards my Nana and my brother, amidst the thunderous applause and the flashing cameras of the reporters, finally content.